Water and electric meter readings. Good day everyone! For today's lesson, you will going to learn how to read and interpret water and electric meter readings. Let's begin. Mr. Tan is computing his monthly electrical consumption. Based on his digital electrical meter shown below, how many kilowatt hours did Mr. Tan consume this month? To determine Mr. Tan electric consumption, we should read the present and previous electric meter. But how we are going to read Mr. Tan electric meter? Let's find out. Electric meter measures the amount of electricity used, which is measured in kilowatt hours. In an electrical meter, you will notice that there are 5 dials, namely dial A, B, C, D, and E. Inside each is a pointer, which indicates the number to be read. The pointers will alternately turn clockwise and counterclockwise. This dial measured the number of the kilowatt hours you use in ones, hundreds, thousands, and 10,000. To read electric meter, first step is to read all dials from right to left, starting from dial A to dial A. Next step is to read the numbers by the pointer of the dial. Take note, when the pointer is between the two numbers, the lower or smaller number is recorded. For example, let us start from dial E. We can see that a pointer points between 8 and 9. Since 8 is the smaller one, that will be our dial E. Next, in dial D, we can see again that a pointer points again between 8 and 9. Therefore, the dial would be 8, since it is the smaller one. Next, in dial C, we can see that a pointer points exactly at 1. We need to take note. If the pointer appears to be exactly on a number, check the dial to the right to find out correct reading. Here, the dial to the right of the dial C is dial D. We also have to take note that if the dial on the right has past 0, then use the number. The pointer is pointing on the dial you are reading. Then make use of the smaller number on the dial you are reading. Let's go to dial B. The pointer points in 2 and 1, so we'll record a smaller number, which is 1. And lastly, we have dial A, where the pointer points again between 1 and 2. Again, we will get a smaller number, so that will be 1 as well. Therefore, the reading of this meter is 11,088 kilowatt hours. Now let's go back and solve our problem. First thing we need to do is to read first the present and previous reading of the electricity meter. Again, we have to read from right to left or from dial E to dial A. First, let's read dial E. In dial E, pointer points exactly at 2. Since it doesn't have a dial to its right, that will be our dial E. Next, dial D. The pointer points between 5 and 6. So we'll get the smaller number, which is 5. Same thing in dial C. Since the pointer appears between the numbers, we'll get 7, since it's smaller. Then in dial B, so the smaller number here would be 0. And lastly, we can see in dial A, pointer point exactly at number 1. So that will be the dial A. Again, we have to read from right to left, which is from dial E to dial A. First, let's read dial E. The pointer points between 7 and 8. So we will record a smaller number, which is 7. In dial D, pointer points between 3 and 4, so we are going to record the smaller number, which is 3. In dial C, the pointer points between 5 and 6. Since 5 is smaller number, that will be our dial C. And lastly, dial A. Pointer points at 1, so that will be our dial A. The present electric meter reading is 10,752 kilowatt hours, while the previous reading is 10,537 kilowatt hours. Now let's recall our problem. To determine the electricity consumed, we need to subtract the previous reading from present reading. Let's subtract. If electricity costs 3 pesos per kilowatt hour, how much will he pay? To get the cost, we need to multiply the amount of kilowatt hour consumed by the cost per kilowatt hour. Based on the water meter shown below, how many cubic meter of water were consumed? How to read water meter? Water meter has only 4 dials, which only move clockwise. To read water meter, we will also read from right to left. Let us start with dial D. The pointer point is between 3 and 4, so we will record the smaller one, which is 3. In dial C, pointer points 0 and 9. Since it has not yet passed 0, we will record 9. In dial B, pointer points between 5 and 4, so we will record the smaller number, which is 4. Lastly, dial A. Pointer points between 0 and 1. Since 0 is smaller, that will be our dial A. Third step is record the number from right to left. Well done. Let's go answer the question. Let us read present reading. Let us start from the rightmost dial. We can see that a pointer points exactly at 4, so that will be our dial D. Next, it points between 7 and 8, so we'll record the smaller one, which is 7. Next one, the pointer points between 9 and 0. Since the pointer has not yet passed 0, we are going to record 9. And lastly, we can see pointer points between 2 and 3. Since 2 is smaller number, we are going to record it. Let's read the previous reading. We will start from right to left. As we can see, the pointer point exactly at 4. And since there is no dial to its right, we will record 4. Here, we can see pointer points between 7 and 6. Since 6 is smaller number, that will be our dial C. Here, we can see again pointer point between 7 and 6. Since 6 is smaller number, that will be our dial B. And last, pointer point between 1 and 2. Since 1 is smaller number, that would be our dial A. Again, the question is how many cubic meter of water were consumed. To get the consumption, we will subtract. If the water costs 7 pesos per cubic meter, how much will the bill for the month?